From the very beginning of our lives, we were taught a simple, powerful lesson. Think with your own head. We heard it from our parents, our teachers, our mentors. Do you understand the consequences of your actions? Study hard. Only with your mind can you achieve anything in this world. Are you going to use your brain or not? This relentless conditioning shaped our minds into soldiers, always on high alert, ready at any moment to find an explanation, to answer a question, to assess a situation, to make a decision, and to maintain absolute control over everything that happens. The mind is trained to act expediently, always from the standpoint of common sense. But what is common sense? It is a minimal, necessary set of rules for how to behave in the world in order to survive. And here lies the mind's greatest mistake. It follows this code too literally, too rigidly. This fixation on common sense prevents the mind from simply looking around and noticing that the world itself often disagrees with its rules. In reality, there are countless things that defy common sense, confirmed by the mind's own inability to explain everything, its failure to protect us from every problem and every misfortune. There is, however, a very simple way out of this situation. It is to rely on the flow of variations. The justification for this is also remarkably simple. Within these flows, you will find precisely what the mind is searching for: expediency. As you know, the flows always move along the path of least resistance. The mind strives to reason soundly and logically, relying on a chain of cause and effect. But the mind's own imperfection prevents it from navigating the world without error, from finding the single correct solution. Nature, on the other hand, is inherently perfect. Therefore, there is more expediency and logic in the natural flows than in the wisest of human reasoning. No matter how convinced the mind is that it is thinking rationally, it will still be wrong. Of course, the mind will always make mistakes in any case, but it will make far fewer of them if it can temper its own diligence. If it can, whenever possible, allow problems to resolve themselves without its active, forceful intervention. This is what it means to let go of the situation. In other words, you need to loosen your grip, reduce your control, stop interfering with the current. You must grant the surrounding world more freedom. You already know that putting pressure on the world is not only useless, but harmful. By disagreeing with the flow, the mind creates excess potential. Transurfing offers a completely different path. First, understand that we ourselves create obstacles by inflating their importance. If you reduce the importance, the obstacles simply remove themselves. Second, if an obstacle does not yield, you must not fight with it. You simply walk around it, and the guiding signs along your path will help you do this. Another tragedy of the mind is its tendency to perceive any event that doesn't fit into its script as an obstacle. The mind usually plans and calculates everything in advance. Then, if something unforeseen happens, it begins to actively fight it, trying to bend events back to its own scenario. As a result, the situation only gets worse. Of course, the mind is in no position to perfectly plan all events, and this is precisely where we must give more freedom to the flow. The flow is not interested in breaking your destiny. That would not be expedient. It is the mind that breaks destiny with its own unreasonable actions. From the mind's point of view, expediency is when everything goes according to a predetermined plan. Anything that deviates from that plan is perceived as an undesirable problem, and a problem must be solved. This is a task the mind takes on with tremendous zeal, which only gives birth to new problems. In this way, The mind itself piles up a mass of obstacles on its own path. Think about it for yourself. When are people truly happy? When do they feel satisfaction and contentment? It is when everything goes according to their plan. Any deviation from the script is perceived by them as a failure. Their inner sense of importance does not allow the mind to accept the possibility of a deviation. The mind thinks, "But I planned everything in advance. I calculated it all. I know better what is good for me and what is bad. I am reasonable." Life often presents people with gifts that they accept with reluctance, simply because they did not plan for them. I wanted a different toy. The reality is, we rarely receive the exact toys we plan for, and so we walk around gloomy, sullen, and dissatisfied. Now just imagine how much more joyful life would become if the mind would simply lower its own importance and acknowledge the right for deviations from the script to exist. Every person can regulate their own level of happiness. For most people, the lower bar for this level is set far too high, which is why they do not consider themselves happy. I am not calling for you to be content with what you have. The dubious formula, "If you want to be happy, is not suitable for transurfing. You will get your toy. But we will talk about that later. Right now, the topic is how to avoid troubles and reduce the number of problems. It is precisely the mind's unwillingness to allow for deviations that prevents it from taking advantage of the ready-made solutions that exist within the flow of variations. The mind's manic tendency to keep everything under control turns life into a continuous battle against the current. How can it possibly allow the current to go its own way, not submitting to its will? And here we have arrived at the mind's most fundamental error. The mind strives to control not its own movement along the current, but the current itself. This is one of the main reasons for the emergence of all kinds of problems and troubles. An expedient flow, moving along the path of least resistance, cannot create problems and obstacles. They are created by the clueless mind. Activate your inner observer, your watcher, and for just one day, notice how the mind tries to control the current. Someone offers you something, and you refuse. They try to tell you something, and you wave it away. Someone expresses their point of view, and you argue. Someone does something their own way, and you try to set them on the true path. Someone offers you a solution, and you object. You expect one thing, but receive another, and you voice your displeasure. Someone gets in your way, and you become furious. Something goes against your script, and you launch a frontal assault to direct the current into the channel you deem necessary. Now try to loosen the grip of your control. Grant more freedom to the flow. I am not suggesting that you agree with everyone and accept everything. Simply change your tactics. Shift the center of gravity from control to observation. Strive to observe more than you control. Don't be in a hurry to wave things away, to object, to argue, to prove your point, to interfere, to manage, or to criticize. Give the situation a chance to resolve itself without your active intervention. You will be, if not stunned, then certainly surprised. And what will happen will be something completely paradoxical. By giving up control, you will gain even more control over the situation than you had before. An impartial observer always has a greater advantage than a direct participant. This is why I constantly repeat, rent yourself out. When you look back, you will see that your control was going against your own current, that the suggestions of others were not without meaning, that there was no need to argue at all, that your intervention was excessive. You will see that what you considered to be obstacles were not obstacles at all. Problems resolve themselves successfully without your knowledge. And what you received, that was not according to your plan, was not so bad after all. Those casually thrown phrases really did have power. Your spiritual discomfort was serving as a warning, and in the end, you did not waste excess energy and were left satisfied. Moving in harmony with the current is hindered by pendulums. At every step, they arrange provocations for a person, forcing him to beat the water with his hands. The existence of a flow in the current does not suit the pendulums for the simple reason that the flow itself moves in the direction of minimal energy expenditure. The energy that a person expends fighting against the current goes to the creation of excess potentials and to feeding the pendulums. The only control to which you should pay attention is control over the level of your inner and outer importance. Remember, it is importance that prevents the mind from letting the situation go. In many cases, letting go of a situation is far more effective and beneficial than insisting on your own way. People's desire for self-affirmation, born in childhood, creates a habit of proving their own significance. From this comes the harmful tendency, in all respects, to prove one's own rightness, no matter the cost. This desire creates an excess potential and comes into conflict with the interests of other people. Often, people try to prove they are right, even in cases where the outcome, one way or the other, does not directly affect their interests. In some people, the sense of inner importance is so hypertrophied that they strive to insist on their own way in any trivial matter. Inner importance develops into a mania to keep everything under control. I will prove to everyone that I am right, whatever it costs me. This is a harmful habit. It greatly complicates life, first and foremost for the defender of the truth himself. If your interests will not be seriously harmed by it, boldly let go of the situation and grant others the right to beat their hands on the water. If you do this consciously, it will immediately become easier on your soul. It will feel even lighter than if you had proven your point. You will derive satisfaction from the fact that you have risen a step higher. You did not, as usual, defend your own significance, but acted like a wise parent with unreasonable children. Let's take another example. Excessive zeal at work is just as harmful as carelessness. Let's say you've landed a prestigious job you've long dreamed of. You place high demands on yourself because you feel you must perform at 100%. This is correct. But if you take on the job too zealously, you most likely will not withstand the strain, especially if the task is difficult. In the best-case scenario, your work will be inefficient. In the worst, you will suffer a nervous breakdown. You might even come to the false conclusion that you are unable to cope with this work. Another variant is possible. You develop a whirlwind of activity and thereby disrupt the established order of things. It seems that many things at work could be improved, and you are absolutely sure that you are acting correctly. However, if your innovations lead to a disruption of the usual way of life for your colleagues, do not expect anything good. This is a case where initiative is punishable. You were placed in a slow but calm and balanced current, and you are thrashing your arms with all your might, trying to swim faster. So what does this mean? That you can no longer say a word against anything? That you shouldn't stick your neck out at all? No, it's not so rigid. You need to approach this issue from a practical point of view. You should only get indignant about and scold that which directly interferes with you, and only if your criticism can change something for the better. Never criticize what has already happened, what cannot be changed. In all other respects, the principle of moving with the current should be applied, not by literally agreeing with everyone and everything, but simply by shifting the center of gravity from control to observation. Observe more, and do not rush to control. The sense of measure will come to you on its own. You don't need to worry about that either.